Welcome back to America Decides. President Biden was focused on his reelection campaign today in territory that has been at times friendly to former President Donald Trump. The president attended several fundraising events in Florida. CBS News chief White House correspondent, our friend Nancy Cordes, joins us now. Nancy, thanks for being here. So he went into the state run by Governor Ron DeSantis, the home of former President Donald Trump. Is he looking for a Democratic revival down south?
He's primarily looking for money, Robert, and there's a lot of it in Florida. So it's some place that presidential candidates of all stripes like to go. On days like today, President Biden raising money at one fundraiser in Jupiter, Florida, north of West Palm Beach, and then heading down to Miami for another fundraiser this evening. No question, they'd love to try to recapture Florida. As you pointed out, it went for Donald Trump twice by about 4 points back in 2016, 2 points rather in 2016, 4 points in 2020. But before that, it did go for Barack Obama twice. So it's not out of the question, particularly because you've got abortion rights advocates in the state working to get a ballot measure there in November that might drive Democrats to the polls. That could help. But the reality is it is a tough uphill climb in Florida, particularly because, as you know, the Republican machine there is so dominant, and they have really out-registered Democrats in that state this election cycle.
Nancy, how do you see this moment for the Biden campaign? Is it all about fundraising at this point and putting up advertising, or something else going on too behind the scenes?
Well, he's got a big event in Michigan, another upcoming primary state on Thursday. He is going to be campaigning there, a state that's gotten a little tougher for him because of the state's significant Arab American population, not very happy with the way that the U.S. has conducted itself in siding with Israel in the Israel-Hamas war. So he's got some ground to make up there. He did get a big boost the other day in the form of an endorsement from the UAW, a nice early endorsement that he had been fighting for months, if not years. So that is a notch in his favor in a big auto state like Michigan. But it's a combination, really, of fundraising and campaigning. The reality is he does not have much of a primary challenge to speak of. He is indubitably going to be the Democratic nominee, so he doesn't have to campaign hard in every primary state, but he does need to raise a lot of money to be competitive down the stretch in the general election, and so that's what he's focused on days like today.
That South Carolina Democratic primary is just in a few days. What's the White House and the Biden campaign's expectations about how that will go?
They feel good about it. Like I said, he doesn't have many challengers there. Of course, you've got folks like Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, but they, are not doing significantly well in the polls. The president was down there this weekend. He, of course, wants a great showing in South Carolina because he's the one who pushed for South Carolina to be the first in the nation primary for Democrats, bucking decades of tradition by saying that South Carolina should go first before Iowa, before New Hampshire, because it is a state that is more diverse, and that he felt, the DNC felt, more representative of the Democratic Party. And so he showed them some love this weekend. He went down to South Carolina, but he's not going down there this week, which is a sign of how comfortable the Biden campaign feels about that particular state.
What about the other person on the ticket, Vice President Kamala Harris? What's her schedule look like, her priorities politically in the next few weeks?
She's doing a lot of campaigning as well, and she is really hitting that women's health issue hard. She is a more natural campaigner on that issue than President Biden is, frankly. This is an issue that he has had an evolution on, if you will, now firmly in favor of abortion rights. But Kamala Harris has been pretty outspoken on that issue. And she is someone the White House has found that they can send from state to state to state talking about something that they know will be a major issue, could be a very important issue for their voters in terms of just getting them enthusiastic, getting them excited down the stretch. You've seen all those polls, Robert, that show that the Biden campaign is dealing with a bit of slack when it comes to enthusiasm from their voters this time around. And they believe that that is the kind of issue that can get voters fired up. That's why they're hoping that there will be ballot measures in as many states as possible come November that might draw Democrats out to the polls, even if they're not particularly excited about another 4 years of Joe Biden.
And quickly, Nancy, you mentioned he's going to be in Michigan on Thursday, President Biden, with the UAW. He was just with the UAW a few days ago in Washington. So is this about just underscoring that support as much as possible?
Sure, because it pays dividends beyond Michigan in other battleground states. Wisconsin, for example, another big battleground state with a significant auto worker population. If he appears in Michigan, they're standing there with the auto workers talking about his support for the working class. That's something that they believe could resonate throughout the Rust Belt.
Nancy Cordes, thank you, as ever.